The Galactic Council chamber echoed with an oppressive silence, a stark contrast to the chaos about to unfold across the galaxy. The decision had been made: human prisoners of war were to be executed. The Council, comprised of various alien species, deemed it necessary. They believed humans were too unpredictable, too defiant to be allowed a foothold among the stars. The vote was unanimous. No appeals, no mercy. What they didn't expect was the leak. Someone within their ranks transmitted the footage to Earth, showing the cold, calculated slaughter of captured soldiers. The video left nothing to the imagination. Men and women stood defiant to the end, their faces resolute even as alien weapons were raised. One by one, their lives were extinguished under the indifferent gaze of the Council. The footage, unaltered and raw, spread across Earth like wildfire. For humanity, the message was clear. They were not seen as equals but as a threat to be eradicated. The video played on every screen in every city. Families wept, rage boiled over, and for the first time in centuries, Earth's fractured nations stood united. The streets were filled with protesters, banners flying high with slogans demanding justice. The faces of the fallen were immortalized in murals, their names chanted by millions. Within hours of the footage surfacing, Earth's leaders convened an emergency session. The United Nations, which had evolved into a unified global government during the war's early days, broadcast its decision live to the world. The Secretary-General, a grizzled veteran with a voice hardened by years of conflict, addressed the planet. Today we have seen the truth. The Galactic Council does not seek peace. They seek our annihilation. They fear what we represent. They fear our resilience, our adaptability, our unity. But they have made a grave mistake. They have awakened something they cannot control. Humanity will not bow. Humanity will not forget. And humanity will not forgive. The declaration of all-out war was immediate. Every industry pivoted to support the war effort. Factories that once manufactured cars began producing tanks and starship components. Scientists, engineers, and technicians worked around the clock, refining Earth's technology to compete with the Council's superior arsenal. Resources were pooled, ideas exchanged, and innovation flourished at an unprecedented pace. The unity was not merely practical. It was emotional, even spiritual. Monuments were erected overnight in honor of the fallen prisoners. People gathered in silence, their grief transforming into a collective resolve. Religious leaders, philosophers, and artists rallied behind the cause, framing it not just as a fight for survival but as a moral crusade. They painted the Council as oppressors, a force of tyranny that needed to be dismantled. But behind the rhetoric and the unity was a simmering anger. Humanity's leaders knew this war wouldn't just be about survival. It was about retribution. They studied the Council's tactics, their vulnerabilities, and their arrogance. Military strategists analyzed every scrap of data, searching for weaknesses. The Council, they concluded, had grown complacent in their dominance, relying on their numbers and technological edge. This complacency would be their undoing. Humanity had always thrived in adversity, turning weaknesses into strengths. Earth's generals devised plans that were as audacious as they were desperate. Guerrilla tactics in space, sabotage of Council supply lines, and asymmetric warfare became the foundation of their strategy. The rallying cry spread across the globe. Recruitment surged. People of all ages, from seasoned soldiers to young volunteers, stepped forward to fight. Training camps sprang up everywhere, churning out pilots, infantry, and engineers. The mood was somber yet determined. There was no room for fear, only purpose. On the eve of the first offensive, Earth's leaders gathered to address their people one last time. The broadcast reached every corner of the globe, from the bustling megacities to the remote colonies on Mars. "We do not fight because we want to," the Secretary-General said. "We fight because we must. We fight for those who cannot. And we fight to ensure that no one will ever again decide the fate of humanity without our consent." The camera cut to the fleets preparing for launch, their sleek designs a testament to humanity's newfound ingenuity. Pilots saluted as they boarded their vessels. Engineers made final adjustments, and families watched their loved ones depart with heavy hearts. As the final preparations were made, one thing was clear. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity. The unity forged in grief and anger had transformed Earth into a war machine, driven by a collective will stronger than any weapon. The message was clear. This was no longer a war for survival. This was a war for justice, a war for humanity's right to exist as equals among the stars. The declaration of war set the gears of Earth's war machine into motion. Factories roared to life, their assembly lines repurposed to churn out weapons, ships, and supplies. Entire cities transformed overnight into hubs of military production. Civilian industries pivoted without hesitation. Luxury goods and entertainment gave way to armor plating, energy weapons, and starship components. Humanity was mobilizing, not as divided nations, but as one united force, determined to strike back against the Galactic Council. The first step was to close the technological gap. While humanity's innovations had always been driven by necessity, this time, survival demanded something extraordinary. Earth's brightest minds gathered in sprawling research facilities, merging disciplines that had previously existed in isolation. AI scientists collaborated with quantum physicists, while engineers worked side by side with biologists to develop adaptive technologies. One breakthrough came in the form of the Sentinel, an advanced combat drone controlled by a neural network that could adapt to enemy tactics in real time. Unlike the rigid, predictable strategies of the Council's forces, Sentinels operated with a level of unpredictability that mirrored humanity's own ingenuity. Another was the development of the obsidian hull, a material capable of withstanding the high-energy weapons used by Council ships. These advancements were not just products of necessity. They were born from the collective will of a species determined to survive. The military wasn't the only force mobilized. Civilians played an equally critical role, from scientists and engineers to teachers and artists. Education systems were overhauled to focus on practical skills. Young students were taught the fundamentals of engineering, strategy, and survival. Artists, poets, and filmmakers worked tirelessly to stoke the fires of unity and resolve, crafting propaganda that celebrated humanity's resilience and vilified the Galactic Council's arrogance. Every effort, no matter how small, was a contribution to the greater cause. As humanity prepared for war, the Galactic Council remained dismissive. In their arrogance, they viewed Earth as an insignificant upstart, incapable of posing a serious threat. But this underestimation would cost them dearly. Earth's generals studied the Council's tactics with the precision of master strategists. They identified patterns of complacency, vulnerabilities in supply chains, and blind spots in their defense networks. It became clear that the Council's vast bureaucracy, while formidable, was also slow and inefficient, an Achilles heel humanity intended to exploit. Plans were laid for a series of surgical strikes designed to cripple the Council's infrastructure. These were not the sweeping invasions the Council expected, but precise, calculated assaults that would leave them disoriented and scrambling to respond. Key to this strategy was the Odyssey fleet, humanity's flagship armada. The fleet represented the pinnacle of Earth's technological ingenuity, combining firepower, speed, and adaptability. Every ship was equipped with AI co-pilots and modular systems that could be reconfigured mid-battle. The Odyssey fleet wasn't just a weapon. It was a statement, a declaration that humanity had risen to meet the challenge. Despite the overwhelming odds, Earth's resolve remained unshaken. The first wave of recruits, comprised of veterans and volunteers alike, underwent rigorous training. Boot camps were grueling, designed to push every individual to their limits. Soldiers were drilled not only in traditional combat but also in zero-gravity maneuvers, cyber warfare, and alien biology. It wasn't enough to simply fight. They had to understand their enemy on every level. The unity among Earth's people was unprecedented. Rivalries that had defined human history were forgotten in the face of a common enemy. Scientists from former adversary nations worked shoulder to shoulder, sharing data and ideas without hesitation. Resources were pooled without question, from rare metals mined on Mars to deep-sea materials harvested from Earth's oceans. Humanity had become a single, unstoppable force, its diversity now its greatest strength. As the Odyssey fleet neared completion, Earth's leaders addressed their people once more. The speech was broadcast across the globe and beyond, transmitted to human colonies and outposts scattered throughout the solar system. This is not just a fight for Earth, they declared. It is a fight for every human life, every dream, every hope. We are not the savages they claim us to be. We are the architects of our destiny, and we will show them the strength of our unity. The final preparations were made. Engineers triple-checked systems, pilots ran simulation after simulation, and generals pored over star maps, refining their strategies. The weight of what was to come hung heavy in the air, but it was a weight humanity bore with pride. They were not just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for the memory of those who had been taken, for the children who deserved a future, and for the right to determine their own fate. When the day came for the Odyssey fleet's launch, the skies above Earth were filled with ships of all sizes, their hulls gleaming under the light of the sun. Families gathered to watch, some waving farewell to loved ones, others holding their breath in silent prayer. As the ships ascended, their engines leaving trails of light behind them, a quiet sense of awe settled over the crowd. This was not the end, it was the beginning. For the Galactic Council, the launch of the Odyssey fleet would be the first sign that they had made a catastrophic mistake. Humanity, underestimated and dismissed, was now a force to be reckoned with. The war they thought they had already won was only just beginning, and humanity, united and unyielding, was ready to fight with every ounce of strength they possessed. The Odyssey fleet's first operation was a masterstroke of precision and audacity. Humanity's military strategists had identified a key supply route vital to the Galactic Council's war efforts, a series of automated stations and cargo convoys that kept their fleets operational. Targeting this network would not only disrupt their logistics but send a message. Humanity could strike where they least expected. The operation began with the deployment of stealth corvettes, outfitted with Earth's most advanced cloaking technology. These ships slipped through Council-controlled space undetected, carrying squads of elite commandos. The first objective was simple but crucial: disable the surveillance networks protecting the supply lines. The commandos infiltrated the stations, bypassing security systems with a combination of human ingenuity and AI assistance. Within hours, the surveillance grid was blind, leaving the supply convoys exposed. The next phase was an ambush. The Odyssey fleet's destroyers and frigates emerged from hyperspace at precisely calculated coordinates, catching the Council's convoys off guard. The Council's ships, built for bulk transport rather than combat, were defenseless against Earth's swift and coordinated assault. In a matter of minutes, the convoy was obliterated. Humanity had drawn first blood. News of the attack spread quickly, both within the Council and back on Earth. For humanity, it was a moment of triumph, a validation of their determination and resourcefulness. For the Council, it was a wake-up call. The humans were no longer an annoyance to be dismissed. They were a threat that demanded a response. The Council convened an emergency session to address the growing human problem. For the first time in centuries, there was genuine fear in their ranks. The species that had once been deemed primitive and reckless had turned their own tactics against them. The Council's arrogance, their belief in the superiority of their technology and numbers, had blinded them to humanity's greatest strength, their ability to adapt. As the Council deliberated, Earth's forces pressed their advantage. The Odyssey fleet launched a series of coordinated strikes against secondary targets, fuel depots, communication relays, and manufacturing hubs. These attacks were surgical, designed to maximize damage while minimizing Earth's own losses. The fleet operated like a scalpel, cutting through the Council's defenses with precision. But these victories did not come without cost. The Council's forces were vast and well-equipped, and as the war dragged on, Earth's fleets began to feel the strain. Every battle, no matter how well-planned, carried risks. Ships were lost, soldiers fell, and the emotional toll on those who remained grew heavier with each passing day. Yet, even in the face of these losses, humanity's resolve did not waver. Back on Earth, the war effort continued at full tilt. Factories worked around the clock to replace lost ships and equipment. Scientists developed new technologies to counter the Council's evolving tactics, while engineers pushed the boundaries of what was possible. One notable breakthrough was the phase disruptor, a weapon capable of destabilizing the energy fields that powered the Council's shields. With this new technology, humanity leveled the playing field further, turning battles that once seemed unwinnable into opportunities for decisive victories. The war also saw the rise of unexpected heroes, individuals whose bravery and ingenuity inspired those around them. Stories of a fighter pilot who single-handedly disabled a Council dreadnought, or a young engineer who devised a way to repair a crippled ship mid-battle, spread like wildfire. These tales became symbols of humanity's indomitable spirit, rallying cries for soldiers and civilians alike. Despite these successes, humanity knew they were fighting a war of attrition. The Council's resources were vast, their fleets seemingly endless. To truly turn the tide, Earth's leaders realized they needed to strike at the heart of the enemy. Plans were drawn up for an audacious assault on a key Council world, a planet that served as a central hub for their military operations. This operation, codenamed Phoenix, would be the most ambitious undertaking of the war. It required months of preparation, meticulous planning, and the coordination of every branch of Earth's military. Spies and informants gathered intelligence, infiltrating Council networks to identify weaknesses in their planetary defenses. Engineers worked tirelessly to develop new ships and weapons specifically for the mission. As the day of the assault approached, the tension among Earth's forces was palpable. Every soldier, pilot, and officer understood the stakes. Success would deal a crippling blow to the Council and potentially turn the war in humanity's favor. Failure could spell the end of Earth's resistance. The Odyssey fleet assembled on the edge of Council-controlled space, its ships gleaming under the light of distant stars. Final briefings were held, last-minute adjustments made. The commanders addressed their troops, their words a mixture of resolve and inspiration. Today, we strike not just for Earth, but for every life that has been lost, for every family that has suffered, and for the future of humanity. We fight because we must. We fight because we can. And we fight because we will win. When the fleet entered hyperspace, heading toward the Council world, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Humanity's fate hung in the balance, but one thing was certain. Whatever the outcome, they would fight with everything they had. They would not falter. They would not yield. They were humanity, and they were unstoppable. The Odyssey fleet emerged from hyperspace, a shimmering tide of humanity's finest ships poised against the Council's heavily fortified hub world. This was no ordinary planet. It was a bastion of power, housing vast military resources, command centers, and some of the Council's most influential figures. A successful strike here would send shockwaves through their hierarchy, a message they could not ignore. The opening salvo was breathtaking in its precision. Earth's fleet unleashed an array of newly developed weapons, including the phase disruptors, which carved through the Council's planetary shield with surgical efficiency. For centuries, the Council had relied on their shields as an impenetrable defense, but now they watched in disbelief as cracks spread across its surface. Humanity had turned their complacency into a liability, exploiting every weakness with relentless ingenuity. Council forces scrambled to respond. Massive defense platforms, orbiting the planet like sentinels, activated their batteries and unleashed a torrent of firepower. The void between the fleets erupted into chaos, a cacophony of explosions and energy beams that lit up the darkness like a violent sunrise. Earth's ships, smaller and more agile, danced through the maelstrom, exploiting their speed to evade the brunt of the counterattack. Amidst the chaos, Earth deployed a fleet of sentinels, autonomous combat drones designed to adapt in real time. These machines moved with unsettling precision, weaving between enemy ships and targeting weak points with devastating efficiency. Unlike the Council's AI systems, rigid and predictable, the Sentinels operated with a level of creativity that mirrored the humans who had built them. They were a perfect example of how humanity had weaponized its greatest strength: adaptability. On the surface of the planet, the operation was equally audacious. In the weeks leading up to the assault, Earth spies had infiltrated the Council's infrastructure, planting backdoor codes and hidden sabotage devices. As the fleet battled above, these assets were activated, plunging key defense systems into disarray. Power grids failed, communication networks went dark, and automated turrets turned on their own forces. The chaos sowed by these acts of sabotage was the perfect cover for Earth's ground forces. Troop carriers descended through the planet's atmosphere, braving anti-aircraft fire as they delivered thousands of soldiers to the surface. These were humanity's best, a coalition of special forces from across the globe, trained to fight in alien environments. The Council's forces, disoriented by the sabotage, struggled to mount an effective resistance. Earth's soldiers pressed their advantage, capturing key installations and dismantling enemy strongholds with ruthless efficiency. The Council had underestimated humanity's capacity for war, but they had also underestimated their determination. Every soldier fought with the memory of those who had fallen, the prisoners of war executed without mercy, the families torn apart, the lives cut short. This wasn't just a battle for survival. It was a reckoning. As the battle raged, Earth's forces pushed toward their primary objective. The Central Command Complex, a sprawling fortress that served as the nerve center for the Council's operations in this sector. Capturing or destroying it would cripple their ability to coordinate a response, effectively decapitating their command structure. The approach to the fortress was a gauntlet of defenses, from automated turrets to entrenched troops. Earth's soldiers advanced with a blend of strategy and ferocity, using combined arms tactics that the Council's rigid forces struggled to counter. Drones provided air support, snipers picked off high-value targets, and ground units moved in coordinated waves, overwhelming one defensive position after another. Inside the command complex, the Council's leadership was in disarray. For centuries, they had ruled through intimidation and overwhelming force, never imagining a scenario in which they could be challenged on their own soil. Now, they watched in horror as humanity dismantled their defenses piece by piece. Their arrogance had blinded them to the possibility of defeat, and now that it was upon them, they were paralyzed. In the final moments of the assault, a team of Earth's most elite soldiers breached the fortress. Moving with precision honed through years of relentless training, they navigated the labyrinthine corridors, neutralizing resistance with minimal casualties. Their objective was twofold: secure critical intelligence and disable the fortress's core systems. The operation culminated in a daring act of sabotage. Using explosives and EMP charges, the team disabled the command complex, rendering it inoperable. As the facility's systems failed, the Council's forces across the planet descended further into chaos. Without coordination, their resistance crumbled, leaving humanity's forces in control. With the battle won, the Odyssey fleet regrouped, its ships battered but triumphant. The planet's defenses lay in ruins, its leadership humiliated, and its strategic value effectively nullified. For humanity, this victory was more than just a military triumph. It was a statement of intent. The Galactic Council now knew, beyond any doubt, that Earth would not be subjugated. Back on Earth, the news of the victory was met with an outpouring of emotion. Crowds filled the streets, celebrating the bravery and sacrifice of the soldiers who had fought for their future. Monuments were erected, and the names of the fallen were etched into history, a testament to the price of freedom. The Galactic Council, reeling from the loss, convened in desperation. Their discussions were marked by fear and uncertainty. Humanity had proven itself not just as a military power but as a force capable of challenging their very dominance. For the first time in centuries, the Council faced the possibility of its own vulnerability. Humanity, however, had no intention of stopping. The victory had emboldened them, uniting their people in a way that few had thought possible. They had sent a clear message. They were not prey to be hunted, nor a threat to be eliminated. They were a force to be reckoned with, a species that would fight not just for survival but for the right to shape their own destiny. The war was far from over, but Earth had gained something far more valuable than territory or resources. They had earned the respect of their adversaries, the unity of their people, and the unshakable belief that they could stand against the galaxy and prevail. This was humanity's moment, a declaration that they would not just survive but thrive, no matter the odds.